Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. In this video I will be analyzing Boeing stock, talking about all the business units, discussing their issues with the 737 MAX aircraft, and letting you know if I will be buying shares of Boeing in the near future. If that at all interests you guys, you want to stick around and watch the video. Before we get started, I want to give a very quick update on the channel. I was planning on making a video on Luckin Coffee, however their stock, at the time of preparing this video, has had trading halted since Tuesday. Now this means that something is wrong, or there's substantial news that needs to be made public before I can do any real analysis on them, so that'll be pushed to a later date. The next video will be on a financial stock. It's a secret, so stay tuned to the channel to see. But there are a couple other stocks for a later date that I will leave in the comments, so reply to my comment with your vote on what you guys want to see next. This is my way of dealing with all the requests that I've been getting in the comments. It's gotten to a point where I can't make videos fast enough to do analyses on all of the stocks, so I wanted to put it up to a vote and let you guys decide what you guys want to see. Now I'm honestly not sure where to start with this company. I'll hold off on talking about their 737 MAX issues for now until we get a good grasp of what they do. So Boeing is one of the oldest aerospace companies in the world, when they were founded in 1916 at a time when they only made single propeller planes. Now, Boeing makes money through three main segments: commercial airplanes, which is what most people associate with Boeing, but nearly 60% of their 2019 revenues did not come from airplanes. The other revenue was made through the defense and global services business segments. Now personally, I think the safest business unit for Boeing is their defense, space, and security business segment. This part of the company manufactures different military aircrafts, missiles, spacecrafts, satellites, and space probes. Over the past 5 years, Boeing has seen very consistent growth, and this is not expected to slow down as the United States government continues to spend money on their budget, and the budget should be growing in the next couple of years. In 2019, their defense, space, and security business segment accounted for over a third of the company's revenue. Also, in 2019, the profitability of this segment skyrocketed, going from operating margins of 6% to just about 10%, which doesn't really sound like much, but that means an extra $1 billion to their annual profits is from this increase. Also, I just don't really see the government slowing down the orders, because all these orders have been budgeted in the previous year's national budget. Lastly, the company had over $64 billion in backlog orders, which means that if they completely stop receiving orders, they'll have well over 2 years of production to rebuild the orders. The company's next most stable business unit right now is their global services. Through this segment, Boeing provides services like engineering, data analytics, supply chain, and training support to different commercial, defense, and space customers. This isn't just for Boeing products, but they provide these services to everybody, which keeps this business intact even if the others falter just a little bit. Boeing's global services is also their most profitable business unit, with operating margins of almost 15%. In 2019, this high profitability led to the global service segment generating $2.7 billion in profit for the company. To kind of wrap up the non-airplane segments, they are really the only reason why Boeing has somewhat held up well during the 737 MAX situation. Without them, the company would not be losing $600 million, but they would be losing nearly 10 times that amount at about $6 billion in 2019. So these business units are really the star of Boeing right now, but that does leave the business segment that we best know Boeing for still to be talked about: their commercial aircraft business. So let's talk about the history of the 737 MAX and how we ended up here. An article by Business Insider gives a good summary of the early stages of the aircraft. When the 737 MAX was announced in 2011 and entered service in 2017, the plane was touted as the next generation of a tried and tested workhorse of consumer aviation. The MAX, a 737 with new, more fuel-efficient engines and updated avionics and cabins, would have longer range, but have a lower operating cost, and have enough in common with previous models so that pilots could switch back and forth between the two with ease. However, 2 fatal crashes involving the plane within 5 months of each other, which killed a combined 346 people, have led to questions about the plane's design and features meant to make it easier for pilots to fly. The crashes have also called attention to training standards, regulatory oversight, and pilot experience. Now, since this point, the company is grounded and stopped production on all of the company's 737 MAXs, and they have fired Dallas Muhlenberg, who has been the CEO of the company since July of 2015. So for a company with hundreds of products, why is it such a big deal that one of them has some issues? Well, of the $400 billion backlog that Boeing had about a year ago, 80% of that number was just Boeing 737 aircrafts. That means if in the unlikely circumstance that all of their future orders are canceled, the company would be missing out on well over $300 billion in revenue. This also means that the pretty safe 7-year backlog that they had built up over time would not even be 2 years anymore. Now, I don't think that would happen, but it's kind of scary to think of the implications that would have on a company like Boeing. From the peak of the stock in March of 2019, the company has lost 2/3 of its value, primarily because of the current situation with the pandemic and the 737 MAX debacle combined. Also, Boeing, a company who has increased their dividend consistently since the 1980s, had to cut their dividend for the first time in the last 2 months, which has made a lot of investors upset, since many could have never seen a company like Boeing struggling to maintain any dividend payouts. Now, unlike almost any other company in the United States, this pandemic may actually be a positive factor for a company like Boeing. Because of the 737 MAX crisis, they were one of the biggest news stories in the stock market for nearly a year, and now if you turn on the news, you'll only hear about the pandemic. I think this can benefit Boeing because it buys them some time to actually figure their stuff out. It's been noted that pilots will probably have to be retrained to fly 737 MAXs when they figure out their issues that they're going through. And when 90% of the flights are being canceled, there's no better time to do that than now. Now, I'm not saying that this will save the business, because there really will be some long-lasting effects, like a loss in brand trust, but it should help them get back on the right track or allow them a little bit of leeway to do that. Luckily for Boeing, they're not in the same position as other airline stocks in regards to how closely they are to bankruptcy. The company's net long-term debt to total assets is at 6%, which is very low for a mature and seemingly safe business like Boeing. I think it was a good decision for Boeing to cut their dividend because it reduces their cash burn right now. If I was invested in them in this portfolio, I wouldn't be a huge fan of it because the goal of this portfolio is to generate dividend income. However, for the company's survival, I think it's a good decision. They're also sitting on nearly $10 billion in cash as of the end of 2019, which should keep them afloat for a little bit. So to give my final thoughts on Boeing, they're a company with a lot of work to do. But if they do figure it out, they could yield some very good returns on your investment right now because they've fallen so much. Now, in full disclosure, I did buy a couple of shares of Boeing in my Roth IRA account back when they were trading around $100 a share. But right now, when the company is above $150 per share, I can't quite bring myself to buy any more because the company carries a substantial amount of risk. I think a portion of everyone's portfolio can be dedicated to turnaround plays or speculative stocks like Boeing has kind of turned into in the last year. However, I think it'll be a very long time before Boeing gets to a point where they're able to safely pay out a dividend. And if I were to invest in a company that doesn't currently pay a dividend, I will probably choose a company that has been performing very well and is getting to a point where it starts to make sense for them, not quite a company who's going through some issues who could turn them around one day. I think that if the stock falls down back under $100, it's possible I could buy more in my other account. However, in this portfolio, since my focus is on solid, lower risk, dividend-paying stocks, that profile just doesn't fit Boeing right now, and that's why I will not be purchasing any more shares of Boeing in my portfolio right now. If you guys think I missed something, or I'm wrong about my opinion on Boeing right now, let me know. but I think given the current situation, it's a pretty fair assessment. They're not a bad company to invest in, but as investors, we need to weigh the pros and cons, and right now this carries a little bit more risk than I'm comfortable with for the potential reward. If you guys have been eyeing a stock and would love my opinion on it, let me know in the comments below. If you guys liked the video, make sure to like the video, and if you hated it, please dislike the video, but leave something I should improve on in the comments. On the screen now, you can see my most recent upload, and a video that YouTube is suggesting for you, so just check those out. As always, subscribe to the channel, because we have some exciting stock analysis videos coming up, and in a stock market like this, there's never a dull moment. I'll see you guys in the next video.